Like to call this meeting to order of Land Use and Planning for Washington County. Uh, This agenda was posted in the office of County Clerk on the 10th day of July, 2026. Notice was sent to the West Bend Daily News Express. Like to call this meeting to order of Land Use and Planning for Washington County. Got that? All right. WIBD, WMBZ Radio, WTKM Radio, My Community Now, Hartford Times Press, Kewaskum Statesman, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. And individuals with disabilities requiring special accommodations for attendance to the meeting should contact County Clerk at 262-335-4301 at least 48 hours prior to the meeting. Please rise for a moment of silent prayer and then remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Chairman,
Thank you.
if I may make an annotation, please note that the name of the newspaper is no longer the West Bend Daily News, it's the Washington County Daily News. And that should be officially recorded as such.
So noted. All right. First, we're going to start. Minute. We'll start with the minutes of the last meeting. Are there any questions, comments, consideration, mistakes, anything like that? Seeing none, I will consider them passed through. We also have a consent agenda cost sharing contract. Joseph J. Moskoller, any questions on that? We're all good. Okay. Then we will open a public meeting. This is a public hearing conducted by the Land Use and Planning Committee of the Washington County Board of Supervisors. The purpose of this public hearing is to consider proposed amendment 2026-1 to the Land Use Plan map of a multi-jurisdictional comprehensive plan for Washington County 2050. Specifically, an application has been received requesting that the county land use map plan be amended to change the land use designation of a portion of a parcel located in Section 4, Town of Jackson, Tax Key T7-007400A from a rural residential to suburban density residential. Comments from the public will be limited to 2 minutes in order to allow enough time for everyone who wishes to speak to have an opportunity to do so. Comments are limited to the issue of the proposed amendment. We ask that everyone please be respectful to one another throughout this process. Remarks that are disparaging, personal in nature, or irrelevant to the topic of the conditional use permit will not be permitted. The public hearing is not a debate. The committee will not entertain or answer questions during the hearing, and remarks must be directed to the committee and not the applicant or county staff. Upon conclusion of the public hearing, the committee will debate and discuss the application and make a decision. Okay, do we have anybody to speak on this issue?
Dennis, I'd like to bring something up. Seeing how I'm the town chairman, I think I should abstain from voting on this.
Okay, we'll wait till we get to that part because we're right in the public comment portion, so you're good. All right, any people wish to speak on this issue? Last chance. Is there anyone here present who wishes to speak on this issue? Seeing none, I will consider this public hearing considered closed by subject to the call of the chair. And we will move on to 2026 Resolution Amendment 2026-1 of a multi-use jurisdictional plan for Washington County, 2050. Please go ahead.
Thank you, thank you, Supervisor Kelling. My name is Hannah, and I work in the Community Development Department. So the report that you guys have in front of you is provides information for both discussion and action items 5A and 5B. So the county received an application for a land division that subsequently requires a comprehensive plan amendment. This report does not review the actual subdivision itself in that application. This specifically focuses on reviewing the comprehensive plan amendment. So the application requests that a portion of parcel T7-007400A change the future land use designation from agricultural and rural residential to suburban density residential. It encompasses about 0.6 acres. In 2023, a comprehensive plan amendment was originally approved from changing the land use designation from agricultural and rural residential to suburban density residential on the original parcel. Since then, the application for the subdivision plat was withdrawn and they acquired additional land and therefore submitted a new application, which brings forth the application that you have in front of you today that encompasses that additional land with the changing land use. As I said before, it's about 0.6 acres for the proposed change. You'll see that the dimensions on the GIS map that I created are slightly incorrect, but you'll see that on the actual legal description and the survey that was provided from the subdivider, that is the correct designation that matches along with the application from 2023 too. So a public hearing notice was published on June 12th, 2026 in accordance with Wisconsin State Statute 66.1001. Written comments were accepted until 3 o'clock on July 15th, 2026, and there were no comments received on this comprehensive plan amendment proposal. So state statutes requires amendments for comprehensive plans to be approved by resolution first and then by ordinance by the board, which is why you have these two documents for 5A and 5B in front of you. And if anyone has questions, I would be happy to answer them.
Okay, Supervisor Mary.
Yes, Hannah, what is the recommendation of your department?
Our recommendation is that you approve a motion to approve the draft resolution 2026 and forward that to the county board for approval, and then approve the draft ordinance to amend sections 179-9 for the Washington County Code and forward that to the county board for consideration.
Supervisor Conrad, do you have any questions on this?
Appreciate it, but no.
Okay. All right. There's no further questions. Do we have a motion? Motion by Supervisor Mary, second. Seconded by Supervisor Krebs. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all for this will signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimous. Oh, Bob, did you need to abstain from that?
What's it?
Did you need to abstain?
That's what I wanted to do, yeah,
Okay.
because I think it would be the right thing to do.
Legally, it's not
Uh,
really required,
I'd
but
like to
if
abstain
you
from
feel
the
like you'd like to, that's fine. So we have one abstention. All right. So we will move on to ordinance B of this same bundle here. You could go ahead and present.
Yep. Same items as discussed before. Our recommendation is a motion to approve the draft 2026 ordinance to amend section 179-9 of Wisconsin County Code and forward to the county board for consideration.
Any questions on this item? Bob, will you be abstaining on this?
Yes, I think.
Totally understand. All right, seeing none, let's take we have to take a separate motion on this item, so I'll take a motion. Motion by Supervisor Krebs, seconded by Supervisor Mary. And all in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? And one abstention. All right. Having concluded that, we will move on to Dublin Downs subdivision. And you will be presenting on that as well.
Yep, me again.
All right.
So thank you, Supervisor Kelling. So Dublin Downs is a proposed 6-lot, 2 outlot subdivision in the town of Erin. There will be one access point onto State Highway 83, and the lots will be served by private on-site sewer and private wells as well. The city of Hartford approved the extraterritorial plat review in April of 2026. The preliminary plat was approved by the Land Use and Planning Committee in March of 2026 with conditions. All contingent items from the preliminary plat have been satisfied based on the final plat review, along with discussions with the developer. And the town plan commission reviewed the final plat on July 13th at their plan commission meeting. However, their minutes are not yet posted. I followed up with the planning consultant that they have, but I did not hear back from him. So we will see about that. But the recommendation is to approve the final plat contingent on approval from the town of Erin, the Wisconsin Department of Administration, and the Wisconsin Department of Transportation.
Okay, do we have any questions on Dublin Downs subdivision? Supervisor Krebs.
Thank you. Reading through the committee report, it talks about several recommendations from the March 26 recommendations. Are all those addressed in this final one? Because which one is it here? I guess number 7, which was identifying a minimum basement exposure elevation. Is that number there like elevation grade height that it's referencing?
Yes, that was based on the stormwater management plan that was approved. So that was added to the plat as note number 7 on page 1.
Okay, that's what I thought it was related to, but I just wanted to find out. So the other one is number 3 on there where it talks about relocating a driveway. What driveway when I look at the final plat are we talking?
So that is for the southern parcel, just south of the road entrance. It is unplatted lands owned, it says owned by others, but it has the 24-foot easement to benefit of lot 10 of lot to the south. So it's that southern parcel. Since the road is proposed to be added to the state highway, the DOT was concerned about the space between the driveway of that southern parcel and the road connection, trying to prevent accidents from happening. So that was something that they were working with the state DOT on, and they came to the conclusion that the subdivider is adding that access easement, and he's actually putting in gravel to that lot line. So that way, if the property owner were to ever have to move their driveway, it's already taken care of, just in case the state allowed him to keep his driveway until there's an accident, then they would revoke that access permit and have him connect to the new road. But until then, they were working that out internally. That's kind of beyond the scope of our land division ordinance. However, we wanted to make sure that the DOT was okay with permitting that road, because without that agreement, they weren't going to permit the road to be accessed. So they have since worked through that.
Okay, thank you.
Supervisor Hardwick.
Thank you. I have a question. this parcel of land, how big is that whole area behind it? Is it, like 100 acres or?
The total subdivision that's proposed, it is about 33.7 acres total.
Each parcel be 5 acres.
Yes, each parcel is about 5 acres. It ranges from 5 acres to about 6.4 acres.
Okay, but this must be coming off some property. How much was the whole property before this subdivision will get approved?
Oh, like the property to the west of it as well?
Yes.
That I do not know off the top of my head.
The big thing I'm concerned about is, it looks like good land. And why are we doing 5 acres? Because 1 acre is gonna be grass, the other 4 acres is gonna be box elder trees and weeds.
Mhm.
I've seen this happen before. That's why are we going with 5 acres?
Mhm. That would be up to the developer and the zoning within the town of Erin. We are reviewing this subdivision because the town of Erin is reviewing it as a subdivision. We don't have a say on how the land gets subdivided within the acreage per lot.
So the whole parcel's 30 acres,
Yep, it,
33, I think.
mhm.
Supervisor Mary?
I would share Supervisor Hartwood's concern, but again, we really don't have the authority over this. If you look at the small lot down in the corner of the display with the plots on it, it looks like the lots to the north of that are also quite substantial in size. But I just get very concerned. I grew up on a farm, Bob Farms now, and people think they're gonna have a wonderful world. They got 5 acres. They have no idea what they're biting off. I mean, I've had a lot of 1 acre size. And I had to buy special mowing equipment just to take care of it because you can't do it normally. And I don't know, again, perhaps it's not part of this discussion, but I have no idea why people would want to buy 5 acres unless, again, they have to because that's the way the township has decided they're gonna split this up no less than 5 acres. But I hope they know what they're doing.
I think it's a big waste. It should be 1 acre lots. That's the way I feel, but
That's the
it's
township.
entirely up to them.
Well, and keep in mind, gentlemen, that you also have higher density zoning and lower density zoning, and that's what this is. It's lower density. If you were to do 1 acre lots, that would start pushing you more towards the higher density. So, and this is something we've talked about previously, when we were talking about solar farms the other day. When you have land that gets divided off, farm field or maybe just wooded raw land, uh, you have people want and desire this type of thing where they get a nice little chunk of land that they can have for themselves. So, yeah, it's not how we view things in the city and probably not the way you would want it viewed in the farm. But we do have the ability to do it. We certainly are zoned for it correctly, and it is up to the township to be able to do it. So,
Thank you very much, Dennis, but all I'm concerned about down the road, you keep doing this, where's the food gonna come from the farms? With all the lands and houses?
agreed. Totally
That's
don't
good
challenge
one.
that. You know farming better than I do. But this is kind of a fact of today. Is that I mean, this has been occurring for the last 20, 30 years. And doesn't show a lot of signs of stopping, especially in Washington County. So, any other questions?
Sorry to be a pain in the side.
No, 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 not at all. That's what you're here to do it's to talk about it.
Okay.
All right, I will accept a motion to approve.
Make a motion.
Supervisor Krebs. I will second it. All right, all in favor of this, please signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, doubling down subdivision will pass and move on to the county board that goes to then?
Nope, that is
That one was-
just
that's
you guys.
with us.
Mhm. Thank you.
you. All right, next up, UW Extension, Crops and Soil Educator, proposed county investment adjustment.
Hey, everyone. I'm Patty Carroll, the Area Extension Director for Extension. And after consulting with Jamie and Jamie through Josh, we are proposing that the crops and soils position that was funded at a 0.25 FTE be moved to a 0.33 FTE. This really supports the strategic priority of economic growth and development, especially for the agricultural industry. So I just want to remind you, as part of this partnership, the county contributes a percentage of the funding of the extension educators of this regional crops and soils position. And it's shared across different counties in Area 14. That was a typo on our committee report for you. UW Extension has proposed increasing Washington County's share of this FTE from 0.25 to 0.33, and we'd like to do this beginning in 2027 because one of the participating counties, when it was a 0.25, has elected not to pursue that funding any longer. In 2024, if you recall, the Land Use and Planning Committee commissioned a task force to examine the current funds dedicated to UW Extension and review how to best meet the changing needs of our community. And through that discussion, agriculture was deemed as an important piece of extension outreach and engagement. However, due to vacancies in the county, our dairy educator portion was redeployed to another county, unfortunately. And so this is really an opportunity to increase our dairy presence with the 0.33 FTE. So to fund the priority, we're going to take a look and re-examine the county's 136 contract, that's what we call it, with UW-Madison, the Division of Extension, and look at the marketing support position. But we're recommending, the recommendation is that we go ahead and fund the position to the 0.33. If you look at the second part of the committee report, you can see that the remainder of 2026, the added cost would be prorated, resulting in less than $2,000 because of the county paying for the vacant time of the position that has been opened. And the costs offset by other budget reductions that we'll be taking a look at in the budget. So it should be a neutral in terms of our budget. Any questions?
Supervisor Krebs?
It says that we would be modifying the 136 contract. When is that contract due, or I don't know much about that contract, so.
Yeah.
could you-
So when I was explaining that you pay a portion of the educators, the Division of Extension also pays a portion of the educators, and they will bill you, it's once a year, but it's paid in 2 installments. So we just paid this installment, but it was prorated. The 4-H educators were on there, and the crops and soils was prorated because it was vacant since, I think it was April, either April or May 1st was when Liz left the position or resigned to go to Compiègne.
So is that a annual contract that?
It's an annual contract.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions on this? Do you have a question, Supervisor Hartwig? Apparently not. Okay. All right, so we will need a motion in a second.
Motion?
Motion Supervisor Mary, seconded by Supervisor Hartwig. I'm sorry, Pam, were you looking to motion on that?
Okay. It's okay.
Got you before I seen you there. All right, any other questions or comments on this particular item? Seeing none, all voting to approve, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The ayes have it.
Thank you. Thank you for your support.
All All right, moving on, we'll go to item number E, the Fair Park Modernization Project Update. And for that, I'm sure Ms. Ludovic, is that you?
Yes, thank you. Good evening. My name is Jamie Ludovic. I'm the county's Chief Land Use and Planning Officer and Liaison Fair Park. One of the things we have been working really hard on finishing before the Washington County Fair next week is the lighting, audio, visual, and technology project that's been happening out at Fair Park that included a number of facade improvements out there. It is mostly going to be completed for the fair. The outdoor audio was the last thing that has kind of come online. But when you head out there for the county fair, you will see signs of recent construction and speaker poles and things that, so take a look at not only all of the new kiosks and digital signage and efforts that have been put out there, but also kind of some of what's been going on with that. As it's nearing completion, what you see in your packet and it's a bit out of order, but the page where it says Fair Park Modernization Project, I'm going to spend just a minute on that. So the revenue that came in, and I do want to just add that this report is evolving and changing because the project is ongoing, spending is happening, interest is accumulating. So when I prepared this report 3 weeks ago, it is already slightly out of date, but big picture, it's close. So you see kind of into the Fair Park project account, there was about 150,000 of sales tax revenue, which is not encumbered. So we'll talk about probably moving that at some point. You see interest in the amount of $629,000 that's come off of this account. And then the 6.25 million dollar kind of debt revenue. That was kind of what came in. Those are the actual transactions in the journal. 7.1 million in revenue was sitting in this account. And then if you scroll down, you start to see what I'm going to call spent to date numbers. Debt issuance costs, arbitrage, which is a penalty fee that we incur for collecting more money in interest than what we borrowed the money at. So as we are slow to spend the money, we are paying penalties in order to kind of make that even. You're not allowed to earn more money than what your debt allows. That's a finance issue. So arbitrage is term for penalty for not spending the money fast enough. And then you see the two big contracts that we have right now, about $481,000 to our design and engineering company, and then Will Surge, which was the general contractor on the project. And then there's a handful of miscellaneous costs and things that have come up that we've charged to the project. We have talked about most of these in the past. There's still a handful of contingencies that I am sure about are going to add to that contract total. And so it's showing you kind of this total committed number of about $5 million, meaning that's out the door. We've pretty much spent that to date-ish.
Can I pause you there?
Yes.
Quick question about those expenses, the contingency for changes. Is that just a contingency amount or is that the amount of?
That number is the one fluffy number in that area, and that's based on my best guess at what is still coming on the actual change orders from the project.
Okay, so would that's like, you said that's anticipated still to come.
That's anticipated on the actual technology project. So we had another change order yesterday that was approved for hardware related to the kiosks that we basically have to do to make it operational. So there's a handful of other programming and camera issues that are rolling in on the project.
So change orders that have already been issued and processed, is that lumped into the prime contractor?
Yes, so the $4,098,000, and happy to share this detail or go through it, already includes over $100,000 worth of change orders.
That would be I know there's some flooring and other.
Yes, so those, there was $60,000 of flooring in the pavilion. That is already in that contract number. So the 50,000 is the ones that are just, and that's conservative. I was trying to kind of get a sketch for the next conversation. So I was trying to the best I can, give you a high level.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. So you're seeing, based on that, you see that number 2.1 million that it's showing is the difference between those two lines, which would tell you, okay, there's about $2.1 million in this account that's not accounted for. If you look over, there's a column where it starts talking about CIP asphalt work, parking lot 8, roof membrane, Devonport work, and Horse Arena 2.0. If you see those to 1.1 million, 1.175 million, that work is not completed. That is work that is eligible for this debt that is otherwise budgeted by the county somewhere. And so we have internally made the decision to utilize the proceeds of the debt for these projects. And then you can kind of see, right below that, our Aaron Dahl, our Chief Innovation Officer, has shown us kind of where that money was. So source column, sales tax, Jackson sewer assessment, because by putting that money into the debt area, it essentially funds it with Fair Park infrastructure debt rather than those sources. So unencumbers the Fair Park obligation to the debt. The debt has to be spent on Fair Park infrastructure or debt payments. We'll come back to that in the next item, but it is restricted in terms of what we are allowed to spend it on. And so that's kind of just a high level. What we are trying to do is anything that we can spend this money on, eligible, that was already budgeted or planned projects, we are trying to spend the Fair Park debt on Fair Park related projects, and we are tracking it very closely in the system. And so that's kind of a summary of the financials to date. So I'm kind of showing in a highlighted number, 976,000. It's close to $1 million, where we have not yet put together the napkin plan for that money. So we are starting to have a conversation about that, which is the next item on the agenda. Questions about what's here?
Supervisor Krebs.
Can you comment on the debt structure of, are we able to prepay any of it? Because I guess right now, not getting into the details of the asks yet, we're either going to have about 2.1 million left over, or if we start funding additional projects, you know, through these debt proceeds, well, we'd still have $1 million left. Can we just return the money?
My understanding is that, because we asked all those questions on this project of our financiers, we asked, what else can it be spent on? The answer was you can spend it on debt service or pay. So we have budgeted the principal and interest. And so that is an eligible expense, which then if we do that, again, that's budgeted money that of another source that becomes available. So
I'm talking about debt
prepaying
servicing.
it,
Yeah, prepaying.
I would want to run that question past Margie, which I can do. But my understanding is we did a call, but I don't think we can pay off the debt.
I just want to know all options on the table, because I hate
Yep.
when that it's not a good, doesn't sound great when we got money and we got to spend it. So just want to make sure what we have to do or what we choose to do.
Yeah, and reminder, when we took out this loan, the expenses were a lot greater, because if you recall, the supply chain was really hitting us hard. So a lot of this stuff we expected to be a lot more expensive. And it was projected to be that way. And then it's turned out that
Yep.
it wasn't quite what we thought. But it is an opportunity. And I think, you know, we will get, when we get to the next item, because there are certain ongoing expenses with the fair. So maybe we can get ahead of some of those things that we would have had to pay for next year or in the very immediate future. Jamie, my question is for the PA system. Last I heard, it was not going to be done before the fair, but maybe you have some more news or different.
It is going to be done by the fair. And in fact, CTI has committed a personnel Tuesday through Friday to be on site if there are any new issues that arise with the outdoor audio.
Atta girl, I knew it. Very
It is
good.
new though, so we are expecting some kinks.
Yeah, and that sometimes happens in a project like this. Okay. So I guess any other questions for Jamie on this particular item? Supervisor Conrath, I see you.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, Chair. And yes, Jamie, I'm looking at the Area 11, that the carnival pad, it speaks of it currently being gravel, and that anticipated cost is 245,000. And I'm just curious, and kind of going along Supervisor Krebs's thought processes. It's a little uncomfortable having money that we feel like we have to spend, and wondering to the priority of putting $245,000 into this area. Could you speak to kind of the pros and cons of keeping that gravel versus putting asphalt down? Or is there a different use for that 245,000?
Hang on one second, Supervisor Conrath and Ms. Ludovic. So that's in the next thing we're going to talk about.
Oh, my
I just want
apologies.
to make
Thank
sure
you.
we complete this portion of it. And please hold that question. Well, now you've already asked, Jamie can speak to that once we get to it. I just want to make sure there's no other questions on the project update that we've covered so far. All right, seeing none, we'll move on. Jamie,
Yes, so
I'll let you just kind of go ahead and give your intentional
yep.
speech on this, and then Pam, after she gets done, then we'll open it up for discussion. Thank you.
So to be clear about the list of the asphalt projects that were in the CIP, we are moving forward with those, and we are proposing to use the debt rather than the sales tax. But those projects have all been moved up because we are penalized if we don't spend the debt quickly enough. So a couple points I want to make. The county executive, the way that this debt was built and issued and described, has the authority to spend this money on a Fair Park modernization project scope. One of the things that was propelling this discussion to you today was that because we have moved up some of the asphalt projects in an effort to spend the money quicker because they were already approved and planned in the CIP, is that asphalt prices are rising drastically. There was an oil issue, and Payne and Dolan is scheduled to be on site at the Fair Park, I believe, starting July 27th or the week after following the fair, to do the projects on the first page that were in the far column. As part of that, one of the questions that was asked was, some of this stuff is coming up in the CIP in the next 5 years, and is because it gets more expensive with time, is there an opportunity to do any more of the work now than in the future, in consultation with the Public Works Officer? When we had this discussion with the county executive, should we greenlight any additional areas? He really wanted to go to the committee and get input on some of these decisions before we chew up this money, similar to what Supervisor Krebs described, with all kinds of things. So what we did is you have in your packet a list. And it is not necessarily all recommended yet. The county executive has not made his recommendation or directed us to spend the funds yet. At this point, we are just seeking any anecdotal feedback that you might have about these decisions that are looking to be made, some quicker than others. There is likely to be a decision about asphalt in the next several weeks because of the timing of the project, either yes or no, or this or that. Just because of the timing of that. That is not necessarily the spend of the full million, in terms of the conversation about whether we pay the debt or, what those recommendations are. So what we're showing you here is kind of a list of the work that has popped up as, hey, we might need money for these things now, or we tried to stick to the next 5 years. They are eligible expenses. So area 1, this is the chief public works officer's highest priority. It's estimated at about $72,000. It's in pretty poor condition, and the timing is good because you can check this out next week when you're out there, when you walk this area, just related to how long are we letting it deteriorate? Do we want to do this? Do we not want to do this? Area 12. This was a question I asked, which resulted in an estimate for this area. This is right outside the pavilion. So when you go there, you can kind of check it out. It doesn't look that great. So we're doing this project, we have this money. They put a price on it. It's $66,000. Take a look at it. Area 6-9, this was also one of the high priorities coming out of the chief public works officer. Just due to the concrete condition. Area 11, this was a prior request from the Ag and Industrial Society. This is the one you spoke of, Supervisor Conrath. They put together everything when they went out there and reviewed it. However, Area 11 with the heat, while it's hot if it's concrete, and we don't even know really full phase of this building. I can tell you, I don't believe Area 11 is, because of the cost of it, something that's likely moving forward, at least in the chief public works officer's recommendation for sure. But it was included because we wanted to show everything, kind of trying to get that vibe of, do we want to do this? Do we not want to do this? Does anyone feel strongly that we should do it? Storm sewer inlets. I mean, again, this is, they're saying at some point inlet restoration is something that we're going to have to do out there. Crack fill and mastic on all the lots and roads, anticipated cost $10,000. So they're, now we're kind of getting to the smaller shoreline stabilization of ponds. We did do some pond stuff, but they were kind of trying to look at everything. So when you get to lot 4 and lot 5, they're starting to look out a little bit into the CIP of, if you don't fund this now, it'll be a request that comes forward in the next 5 to 10 years. Right. So it'll be in that sales tax allocation report. Other possible items, I should add to this list. Today, I was notified about the HVAC work potentially needing to be moved up. It was planned for about 6 years, but they're having some concerns that might look at moving HVAC work to this list in terms of what the highest priority needs are out there. I apologize, I don't have a number on that. The security and card access system, we do have a number on. This would be to add this to the rest of our building controls and essentially allow card access to certain doors of the building. And cameras, something that we don't currently have out there, but long-term usage. Again, this is really in that nice to have category. Wireless network and network infrastructure needs. So one of the, and I'll even add to this, is potential capital equipment needs. There's a work group conversation that is happening that we talked about at the last meeting with the Fair Park. Those recommendations will be coming to this committee soon. Some of the things that have been talked about are really related to sharing, potentially sharing resources where it makes sense. The Wi-Fi network and network infrastructure on the grounds went down 3 weeks ago. This is the Wi-Fi that powers the Clovers and the vendors and the campground and essentially everything outside. And in its assessment is end of life. And all of the equipment, hardware, and APs need to be replaced. One way or another, this is likely a project that has to be done by somebody. As well as there's kind of a conversation around mowers or trucks or things that could potentially be utilized. So this funding pot would be a pot of money that would be eligible for those types of costs should we pursue those conversations. There's always been a conversation around additional horse arena improvements or goat barns. So in terms of hosting more horse shows, covering the arena, those are options. Those are things that we can pursue further if there's interest. And then it isn't in here because the information came after this report was put together, but the option for the funding to go back into the debt proceeds or pay for the debt payments that we have scheduled in our budget, whatever that looks like. And it sounds like I do have a follow-up item to get a little bit more detail on what that could potentially be used for. But that's an eligible expense of the money. So those are just kind of the things that are out there that we're starting to think about in terms of putting together a spend on this money with, I would say, the most immediate questions, looking for any input potentially on Area 1, Area 12, and Area 6-9, just as it relates to kind of the timing of that project that's going to be happening, which would then also add to this list. I will just say a lot of the list of the financials you saw on the prior page is still estimated costs versus actual costs. There's also $150,000 in this pot that was originally sales tax, so can also be applied to be sales tax. So I know that's a lot of information to provide. And again, we're not necessarily asking for any approval or action as there's already approval to spend this money in the county executive's area, but he really kind of wanted to know before we deploy any more money on asphalt. That's really the question, and why this item is called Fair Park Asphalt is how do we feel about deploying any more money on asphalt? And I'd love to hear what you guys have to say.
Okay, first I'd like to go to Supervisor Conrath because she already had that question. So Supervisor Conrath, you can go ahead and ask your question again, unless it's been answered.
Yeah, Jamie, could you speak to that Area 11 a little bit? I see you stated that it was requested, but it's gravel right now. What would kind of be the pros and cons, or is there something else that we can use that? It's $245,000.
Yes, I think the
Somewhere
chief public
else.
works officer, it was always planned to be paved early on. And then the gravel kicks up if it's very hot and dry, dirt, and is sometimes I'm going to say a nuisance. And so that is really the con. What I referenced when I said it isn't being recommended probably by me right now or by the chief public works officer to actually do this. But it is in here because of you guys as elected officials getting feedback on should we do this, kind of this yes or no question if anybody feels very compelled to pave this. That said, it is the cons. It could become very hot. It certainly limits, it adds future maintenance costs. This is also an area where other things were sketched in here in terms of the long-term plan for the grounds. Is this always going to be a carnival area? Does it holds a footprint near the utilities, for buildings or structures adjacent the highway. So there are, long-term planning implications of putting another investment right here if we're not sure about the future vision. Those are some of the things that I see coming up related to why we would maybe not pursue this large of a asphalt project versus you can see the ongoing maintenance costs of all the other asphalt we have, right? So before you build new asphalt, we probably should fix the areas that are failing. And so I know we share that. I think the Chief Public Works Officer put it in here because AIS has requested it because it's a nuisance at the fair. When are we getting this paved? And we never seem to pave it. And so it is in the list with a cost, so we could look at it. But again, this isn't a list of recommended items to spend that money. This is just a
Mhm.
list of all of the things that are kind of on the radar for putting together that plan. That said, there are a handful of asphalt items that we're hoping to make a decision on, yes or no, sooner, which
Yeah,
will
thank
start
you.
to chew into the pot a little bit.
Okay, thank you, Jamie. Yeah, and with those additional comments that you stated, I with thinking bigger strategic plans, yeah, I would prefer, my suggestion to hold off as I'm kind of along those same thoughts of yours. But I don't know, I like the stones in the dust. It's part of the charm, right, of the fair. But I do appreciate too your priority of the entrance, because that truly, that's our front door, essentially our entrance. So I do appreciate that being a priority for asphalt. But thank you.
All right, Supervisor Krebs.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Okay, so I want to back up a little bit. Payne and Dolan's coming in July 27th, so it
Ish,
Ish.
feels
the
like
following
there's,
week.
I get it. So I feel like there's a little bit of time sensitive pressure here. What are they doing on July 27th-ish to start with? Like, what's their base work?
Their
currently?
base work is listed in that finance report. It's parking lot 8, so it's $240,000 to redo parking lot 8. It's that page before that it's like column 3. And then that $125,000 is a couple other spots.
Okay, so looking at that initial Fair Park modernization project, the budget sheet,
Yep,
it's that the middle CIP labeled work.
CIP asphalt work. Yeah, it was our regular planned asphalt work from 2027-6 and 2027 that we have all moved all into one project in 2026. So 2027, which is next year's project, is being done now.
Okay, I was just getting a little confused because up in the middle part above where it's listed, broken out by 3 different asphalt amounts, but then down lower in the funding area, it was only listed under 2 different funding amounts. So that's why I wasn't sure if those are the same or different. It's kind of getting myself confused about that. Cause it's listed in the middle part as asphalt work for 189, asphalt work for 125, and then parking lot 8, 240. But down lower, it's just FAC 26 and 27.
Yeah, so the 189,000 was asphalt work from last year. It's already been completed and we charged it to this account. Pre-2026 projects. So that's actually done out the door. The 125 was what was budgeted in and I actually think it's below, it's $100,000 of sales tax for this. It looks like parking lot Ziegler. $100,000 of sales tax was budgeted. That will get, I guess, in theory, unencumbered for the 2026 project in the CIP. The 2027 project, $240,000 was parking lot 8. And that is that was moved up to 2026 because of the penalties we're paying on the debt money.
Mhm.
And then we are tracking this. So that's kind of an accounting mechanism change that we're making within the budget.
Has the executive said what the plans that he would propose to the county board are by freeing up this future CIP money?
No, we have not gotten to that conversation. But it is, we believe it's in the best interest of the flexibility of the county executive and the board to do that. If that makes sense. So there is no con to spending the debt money on already authorized money because it's just a matter of which bucket are we spending the money out of in the biennial budget.
Yeah.
We
so-
actually did
so-
talk about that concept at the last financial update as well of kind of unencumbering the money.
I agree, it's nice to get it done sooner and it's work that we plan on doing, so getting it done sooner is better. I would like at a future, this is future, to have a conversation about that sales tax money, let's say in 2027, that 240 that's now unencumbered. Can that money be used to go back and try to prepay some of this loan off sooner possibly versus that money, say that 240 being unencumbered and we just find a completely different use somewhere else to spend it on?
Yes, that conversation is forthcoming. And I know there's some conversation about strategic priorities coming up for the board and some of that, the work group recommendations. And so there's a number of those coming up, but I'm hearing your question about prepaying the debt and no decision that I'm aware of has been made on that question. So
I guess at the next CIP review or the next time we pass that budget, I would like to make sure any money, sales tax money that became unencumbered due to stuff like this is at least very well shown. So we remember this conversation and we can look at that money a little bit differently.
Yeah, we've done that in the past. If you recall, in our budgeting process, remember the parking lot over at the college where we ended up not doing the lot, and that was held as a separate budget item, that it remained in there, the amount, and then they stated, that we didn't use the money
Yeah.
Sure.
because of the parking lot.
And I just want to clarify for you, Supervisor Krebs, my opinion, and I've said this to others, is that I do believe the county executive has the authority to spend the debt proceeds on Fair Park work. However, changing the use of budgeted sales tax and CIP to a different use or a different project would require some sort of a CIP amendment or fund
County board.
transfer. So we're like not doing those projects, right? We can't just decide to take that money and then, that requires a conversation.
Yeah,
So-
so the next time we do the CIP and those projects disappear from the CIP because they're not needed anymore because they're done. I still want to just kind of have, if we can remember
Yeah.
what we were going to spend on that there, so with.
Well, and this is only the 26-27, which is already the authorized operating budget.
Right.
So that 27 Jackson sewer assessment money, we moved those to 26. So we didn't go beyond what was authorized, if that makes sense.
So the CIP is gonna show, like, we didn't use as much of it then, even though it's authorized, because we're not going to be drawing from that.
Well, the CIP is just a planning document.
I think
It'll
you meant
start with the
sales tax,
balance and move forward.
I'm sorry,
the sales tax.
We're gonna show up $240 or $340,000 unused, or $340,000 worth of sales tax that we had budgeted and approved that we did not.
In theory, it would show up there. I know that the chief operating officer is currently conducting a meeting next week to review the status of all of the CIP projects, because there's a number of moving pieces that have to be kind of figured out for a future discussion. This is just kind of a piece that sits at this committee. And so we wanted to be transparent that this stuff was happening. So we did talk about moving up some of these already authorized projects because you guys authorized these projects. We're just talking about which pocket, right, is being potentially utilized to pay for
I
them.
just want to remember, whether it's 6 months or a year from now, when all of a sudden we find the spare hundreds of thousands of dollars in a pocket that I'll probably have forgotten about between now and then, that we just don't go, hey, I found this money, let's spend it. Let's remember why we saved it or where it came from, so then we can spend it with a little more
intentionality.
Yeah, and I think, that's something that if you review the old budget documents, as I said, Aaron Dahl has always been very big on that.
Yeah, I'm just
You
saying it
know,
out loud.
so,
but
no,
hopefully
I
people
totally
can
get it.
Remind me later on when we find. a spare
Absolutely.
$20 in the
Yeah,
pocket.
and
where-
he actually does that. Like he'll write a note on there, hey, this was from that and we didn't need it, ended up using it. So,
Yep.
so yeah, and point taken,
Because, like,
I
forgot
agree.
about the UWWC parking lot like scenario that you brought
Right.
up, but there again, hey, I forgot about that 100,000.
I never
whatever it
forget.
was. What was-
It's got $1 attached to it. I know it. You know, personally, I'd like to say that utilizing this money for CIP stuff that's going to be coming in the next couple years anyway, for a couple of reasons. One, with the price of asphalt being greater and just inflationary pressure in general, it would probably be smart to do it now with this money. And again, then freeing up possible sales tax column B for use for other projects that we know we have coming on the horizon. So keep in mind, we've got possible health and human services buildings, lots of stuff going with that stuff too that we know is kind of on the horizon, but we're looking at it right now. So there's a possibility that maybe some of that can be used around that time, or we're taking a certain loan out for that and we're using this money for maintenance and upgrades on our other buildings, because there's always something. So I think there is a certain advantage and shrewdness in kind of going after these lots that are in the near budget future, say the next 4 or 5 years out, to go ahead and get them taken care of now. That type of infrastructure that we're talking about at the Fair Park. Because like I said, I do believe that's going to free up that sales tax dollars, and we will have a need for that.
And with the larger projects on the horizon, I just don't want us to go, hey, we got this. Found this extra money, let's spend it in on a lot of little stuff all of a sudden, where then it could have been a nice down payment. Larger amount, towards some of these big projects.
Well, and it depends though, because now you're talking about column do not use. The certain sales tax money and stuff has to be used for capital improvements, can't be used for certain items.
So,
So, what we're saving in possible sales tax, because we're reducing our capital improvements with this money, won't necessarily be able to be used to put towards a loan or something like that, because it may not be a proper use of that money. But in the end, we end up with the money being out there and being free. And I do believe that Aaron Dahl will come up with a very good and responsible way that we can assure that it's being used correctly. So just my thought, I believe that, it's a good time to tackle these near future improvements.
so with that, as far as what the work outlined that you know, showed here, area 1, area 12, area 6, 9. I'm okay with replacing those and getting that work done sooner.
Right. That's what I'm.
Because it's replaced as is, and
Right.
it's not very controversial as far as what's other than the money about it, what the actual work itself is obvious. And Jamie, is that the work that is Payne and Dolan able to squeeze that work into their schedule?
That's what they're asking me every 2 days.
Not every 4 hours. Because there is some work that there was one or two of them had some tile or some storm water work that obviously the highway department would have to probably be involved with a little bit of that to make sure that they're able to accomplish that at the same time. I thought there was some of it.
Yep, it was
Yeah, I
area,
saw there was some drain
area
tile.
one.
Area 1 has some work, some storm work and stuff, so I'm okay with all that. And at the end of the day, those areas, so areas 1, 12, 6, and 9, just my rough math added up to, whoops, and I just hit 0. About 196,000, so 200,000 just rounding up. That would come off of that 976,000 that's gonna be there, sitting out there. So by doing this additional work very quickly, our account would get down to 776.
Yeah, and so the 776, so you're 100% clear, that's like an unencumbered number. That column that totals 1.1 million of CIP work, that's the work that so it's the spend of the debt money, right? But that is freeing up those sources as we spend the debt money.
Yep.
So that conversation, Supervisor Kelling, is 100% correct. The Fair Park Work Group recommendations alongside a number of these high priority strategic action items are kind of all lining themselves up for a conversation with this, fire and EMS is another one in the next, 3, 4, 5, 6 months. And these all go together because this is, as we spend this money, that becomes a tool that is put back into your toolbox in terms of your decision making on some of those questions.
You just said that money was unencumbered, but that 976 is still encumbered.
That has to be spent at Fair Park,
That's what I mean,
Fair
we
Park
just said-
infrastructure or debt.
Because then it's 976, and if we subtract off 200 of this additional asphalt work to jump it forward, that was about 200,000, so that gets you down to 776. That 776 is still encumbered.
Yep, and to date, we haven't deployed any of the money to anything that wasn't already sourced somewhere else. This would be the first addition to the scope that isn't budgeted or isn't authorized, isn't planned sales tax or planned, like the Horse Arena was, I think we used strategic priorities, but instead of strategic priorities, we use the debt, right? So we've been trying to use the debt for the appropriate purposes whenever possible.
So if you get the approval or head nod that you're looking for today for asphalt work, at a future date, are we gonna then come back and discuss the other work and try to rank it or how to spend it? Because that basically we're still gonna be having 776,000 of encumbered money, and we'd want to figure out what's our priority of the rest of the items on the list.
Yeah, the county executive specifically wanted to know how you felt about chewing up the money with the asphalt.
Yep. For today, but
Because of the timing of the
yeah,
asphalt.
so then in the future, 1, 2, or 3 months out, are we gonna then talk about the non-asphalt items?
We can, and I think we should because of the way this is evolving. And with the CIP meetings that are happening in the next couple of weeks, update this report. Once we have the final concrete numbers in here, we can tighten it and we can bring that back. And then the answer to your question is, it depends. It depends. Likely, yes. We want to be collaborative and make sure we're on the same page before we deploy any money. But technically, $10,000 decision to seal coat the asphalt could be made, and then we can report back on any of those decisions that happen as they happen. But as of right now, I can tell you none are in the hopper. It's part of that big picture conversation.
Because right now, I'm just more rough math, 130 for card access, 175 for Wi-Fi, 100,000 for shoreline. If you add everything up on there, I don't know if we're even to that 776,000 to burn up the rest of that or not.
The debt payment's not on there. And so that debt payment is one that is attractive to us because it's an eligible expense of the debt that is already programmed with another source.
When you talk debt payment, are you talking prepayment or are you talking like the monthly or annual?
The budgeted, the 2027 budgeted payment on the debt.
So your expected long-range debt payments.
But I will go back and ask that question about prepayment and how much could be prepaid and or paid early.
Okay. As far as the Area 11 that Supervisor Conrad had brought up, I would definitely wait on that, because I think that deserves more in-depth looking into and conversation, because my first things I'm thinking about is that stone pad at the correct elevation or graded right to start with. I just don't, knowing during fair, there's always electrical cords and other trip hazards all through there. Is that all stuff that we'd want to maybe try to make better or nicer? You know, before we start paving over by putting conduits or sleeves and trenches in there. So I think that area definitely should wait on the paving of it. And probably get more input from AIS or more thought from the county board about it. And then lastly, it's not a big deal, but the big Fair Park layout page that shows zones doesn't match up with your zones for paving, just so you know. And the big one I looked at was zone 12. Zone 12 on the big Fair layout page shows like the outer ring driveway.
Your map.
There, yeah, the map. But on like the aerial shots where you're marking out area 12 is the area that you had requested. Looks like it's on the back side of the pavilion, if I'm looking at the right roof. So it just doesn't quite jive together, so you know.
Yeah, good question. I don't know. I do know that there is a separate conversation that will be before this committee. There's a lot happening out here with Fair Park and the work group and the recommendations and, but there's a separate conversation related to the Hartford Jackson Interconnect project, which we've talked about with this committee a number of times. They have selected the route and notified us that it will go through basically that road back there. And so we will be moving forward, contracting an easement attorney, and they were out appraising the site last week. And so eventually that negotiation will come before this committee as well with regards to restoration, but also compensation for the acquisition of that easement. And as it relates to pavement, we wouldn't recommend paving back there right now because they're likely to cut an easement through there.
Have to pay to replace it.
Yeah, and kind of building on what Jamie just said, there is an awful lot going on with, Carol Mary can attest to this too, with the whole work group, what we've been doing. So a lot of exciting things, but it all comes with a price tag. And personally, to the executive, I would like to say that I think it's a smart idea to make sure that we use this money to free up that sales tax and all that money, for future use. I think that's just a good idea. Because looking into the future, as I've seen, we got a lot of stuff going on, and it's gonna get real tight in the next couple of years, and we may have need for freeing up that money right now. So it is really just sliding it from column A to column B and then backfilling it. I mean, it's a lot of it's what that voodoo math that Aaron Dahl does, to make sure that we've got enough money in our accounts to get everything paid for. So I think it's a smart move. So anything else to add to this discussion?
I think I have what I need to share with the county executive on Monday. He just kind of wanted to hear some comments from the group, and then he'll make a decision ultimately about if we move forward or not, or how. And we can certainly and we will be having continued conversation about Fair Park coming up probably every meeting.
Yes, probably. All right, then let's move on to the use of strategic priority funds for Fair Park Entertainment. Is that supposed to be 2026?
Nope.
2025? Okay, well, then you can explain that to us. Go ahead, Jamie.
Yes, so there is an outstanding invoice from the 2025 Fair Entertainment, which if you recall this from past conversations, when the change was made to the promoter agreement, AIS negotiated that they would pay the first $25,000 of the promoter fee because their previous agreements with their previous promoters had a $25,000 flat fee essentially. The new agreements with EEI basically had their compensation at 10%. So the county agreed via the operating agreements to pay the difference between AIS's $25,000 cap and the promoter agreements. This issue has now been resolved in the 2026 operating budget. The board added this difference and payment to AIS into the budget. So they actually increased it so that we would be paying for this. It remains a topic related to the promoter agreement with AIS. But 2025's invoice is still outstanding and it's significantly higher than 2024 amount. Is that right? And 2023, because the cost of Foreigner was that much higher. They spent more on the National Entertainment Acts in total, which then caused the promoter's bill to be higher. So they still have a unpaid payment on their books for 2025. We were slow to address it. We got this invoice when right prior to Stacy leaving, she put it on the books. And there was a lot of flux happening. And so we just weren't quite sure how that was going to pan out. And it just came back up as we deployed AIS deployed some management services with a nonprofit accounting firm to shore up their 2025 books, as well as do the taxes and kind of get their financials on a path forward to review. So this is still on the books. We brought it back up. And so this is kind of the resolution to make that final payment.
Questions from the committee? Supervisor Krebs?
Is this a eligible expense of the debt service?
I don't think operating is.
Nope, operating.
No, it's not. But good question.
In all seriousness, though, between the county and the AIS, are we seeing better service by using the Eagles Entertainment Group for promotion compared to their previous act? And if you can't answer that now, I understand, but like, that's something I think we need to, at some point, have discussion about. Because since we approved that agreement, this is like the first time I feel like I've seen their name again and remember. As a promoter, they don't promote themselves very well, I guess, with getting at, so.
Yeah, they're usually behind the scenes. And I do know that, we've had conversations with Eagles and all the rest of that. I've been privy to some things, but yeah, it's not something you hear a lot about. Musical acts and getting musical acts are extremely difficult these days, and they are expensive.
If they're doing their job, they're doing their job. I just
Yeah.
don't know.
Yeah, and our contract, I don't know, it goes for, I know we had a 10-year contract, but I'm not sure of the year that it started.
So year 25 was the 4th year, so 21 kind of would be.
Sounds about
that.
that. Yeah, so. All right, so we need a motion and a second.
I'll make a motion.
Motion by Supervisor Hartwig. Do we have a second? Seconded by Supervisor Krebs. Oop, no, I'm gonna get Pam this time. She did. Good catch. Pam's the second. All right, so All looking to approve this item, please signify by saying aye. Aye.
I,
All opposed? The ayes have it. All right, this concludes our meeting of the Washington County Land Use and Planning meeting for July. Our next meeting is August 20th, 2026 at 4:30.